Hey folks, it's time for TWiP Pro Photo Critique number 171, Mobile. This is TWiP. Welcome back to another TWiP Pro Photo Critique. I'm here with my good friend and partner in crime and critiquing, Mr. Troy Miller. Hey Troy, how's it going, man?
I'm good. I'm dancing.
What are you doing over there?
I'm dancing.
You all right? Should I take the camera off of you? What's happening?
I just didn't want a boring cut to me just sitting here.
Just sitting there, yeah, waving uncomfortably. Yeah, man. Lots going on. So this week's critique was mobile, and as you know, as I've been kind of ranting about for the last couple of weeks, I'm excited about the future of mobile more so than ever. And of course, you had to be the first one to get that iPhone 13. And you're loving it. What do you think? So you're about 2 weeks into it now, right?
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Are you still loving it? Do you hate it? What's the deal?
Oh, I dig it. You know, I've always been an early adopter and I've always loved, getting into the newer things. And I wasn't going to get this phone until I was at the Cupertino store and I got to play with them. And it's the camera. For me, the camera really sold me. Being a photographer, I love the stop faster glass that's in it, and then some of the macro stuff. I've been excited about it, so it's worth it. Yeah.
Now you've done a couple of weddings since you've gotten that thing. Have you been tempted to use the phone for any like professional wedding shots at all?
It's funny. Yesterday we had a cake, and it was a very themed cake, so it had a lot of fandoms and stuff on the cake and things like that. And I was really struggling, like, oh, what lens am I going to use at 85? At the macros in the truck, like, do I want to go get that? And Margie's like, well, you should just use your phone. And so I didn't have time, but I thought that would have been, I should have, because shooting it with the phone would have been super easy, because camera lenses are big and I don't always have everyone with me. So I can see us doing stuff like that in the future because, hey, the tool you have with you is the best tool for the job. So
right, and it's not going to come watermarked with shot on iPhone. Your bride is going to like, wait a minute. It's just going to look amazing when you're done with it. Are you shooting Pro RAW on your phone? Are you shooting Pro RAW or TIFF or JPEG?
It depends. Like sometimes I'll switch it to Pro RAW just so I can play with it and see how the RAW version works. And it's impressive, even editing it on the phone or editing it in the Apple photo software. I've done a couple where I brought them into Capture One and I've edited them for tonal range just to kind of see if I had detail in the clouds and stuff. And it's impressive. It's really, really impressive.
Yeah. It is. I think I think as we'll see probably from some of the submissions today that I part of me wants to say, hey, we're getting really close to where this iPhone can be used for like quote real work, and I think that's antiquated thinking. I think it's been being used for real work for a while now, and now we're seeing it's mature, right? It's getting more and more mature with this 13 and that macro lens on there is just, you sold me on the iPhone 13. I was going to skip it until you and I hung out at Craig Colvin's house and you showed me the macro shots and you were just wandering around his yard doing, and I'm like, what is going on right now? So I need that. I need that.
It's, it's changed how I load my camera pack when I go on little vacations and I go for walks. Like we were just up in San Simeon going for a walk on the beach, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna grab the 70 to 200 to walk the beach because I have my phone. My phone can do all the wide angle stuff that I need, and I'm like, I'm just gonna take the camera. I'm not gonna take another lens to switch if I want to shoot wide angle, right? I'm like, I just use my phone. And I'm like, that's great. Now it's part of my kit. It's actually part of my kit.
Yeah. Here's, and sorry folks, we'll get to the critique in just a second. This is all topical. This is mobile stuff.
It is.
I've been shooting my daughter's gymnastics meets with my phone the first time. And this is just for those that don't know, I think I've told this before, but her first meet I went to, and I was all A-team loaded down. I had all my gear, my micro four, because I shoot micro four thirds and I have full frame, but I brought my micro four thirds camera with my longer lens, and I'm that dad, and I get in there, and it was not a lot of light in there. It wasn't dark, but it wasn't bright. Right. And you guys all know the struggle, right? I was doing the struggle of, okay, how far can I crank this ISO up in order to get a fast enough shutter speed to freeze these little girls doing their little cartwheels and stuff? The math just didn't work. There was no, because our locations were fixed. You know, parents get corralled into a little area, so we couldn't move around or get closer or do anything, right? So I was stuck. So the next one, and the shots look like crap. So the next one I went to, I was like, well, I was shooting with my iPhone and that thing, and I looked at the iPhone shots, and the iPhone shots were amazing and superior, right? So clearly I need AI help with my photography. So we've had several since then, and I've only brought the iPhone with me, and I've done videos and stills and slow-mos and, you know, all this, like, the purpose built for gymnastics meets, and they've been great. I mean, it's been a breath of fresh air. I'm not bringing a camera bag. All I bring is I got a little, like, satchel bag that I carry with all my little stuff, my little man bag, and in it I've got an Anchor battery pack, so that I can recharge or charge my phone, so I don't get, because if you're relying on your phone, you can't be the guy that ran out of power, right? So I'm charged up all the time, and that was the missing link. I will tell you this though, cautionary tale to you folks that are shooting with phones and iPhones, etc. So me, Mr. Push the Envelope, realized that, hey, iPhone now shoots in Dolby Vision HDR. Maybe I'll just start shooting in that, right? So before you know, it's like the classic mistake that you don't do before a deployment is mess with your settings or mess with your gear, right? So I switch it to HDR. I'm recording. My phone is acting crazy. It's getting hot. It's battery's draining. You know, I record a clip of my daughter on the beam, and I try to play it. Phone crash. Like, it was just horrible until I switched it off, and I just went back to regular 4K 60, which is plenty, right? 4K 60, everything's fine. So, and then one of the clips that I brought in that I did manage to record in Dolby Vision, I brought that in. Normally you can just, you know, the iPhone clips look brilliant out of the phone, right? This one I brought into Final Cut, and it was just blown to hell. Like, it was like, it looked 4 stops overexposed and just like garbage. And then I spoke with my friend Jefferson Graham, and Jefferson was like, okay, you gotta drag on the HDR tools plug-in thing onto it for it to be able to interpret that footage. So I did that, and then with the whole thing slowed. It looked great after that, but then my machine slowed down. It was, so all that to say, unless you really need it, 4K 60 is great. You know? So,
what? But was that on the iPhone 13?
No, I don't have the 13 yet. My 13 doesn't come till next week or so. Yeah, this was the 12 Pro Max. So, yeah, maybe it'll work better. Yeah, maybe it'll work better on yours. I don't know. So, and then the last thing before we get into the critique is, I've been telling people that I'm waiting on something to show up before I upgrade my computer. You see what was announced today? Ooh, the new MacBook Pro is here with the M1 16-inch processor. 16-inch screen with an M1 processor. Yeah, that's I just saw this before we jumped on, so I am got to dive in. They updated the AirPods, the base model, and these guys, the HomePods as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to, I might be making another purchase. So there's going to be a bunch of Apple stuff showing up in November. So I'm excited. Nice. All right. You ready to go? I know you're jealous because you just bought your MacBook Pro, right? So you can't upgrade to the 6.
2 years ago, but
was that 2 years? It feels like you just got it. Didn't you and Kira get your computers at the same time?
Yeah.
2 years ago?
Yeah, early. Yeah, it was like Christmas or fall of 2019.
Oh my God, time is flying.
Oh gosh, I know.
All right, so let's dive into our critique, folks.
2019. Yep.
2019. Here's a critique. This week's critique topic. Thank you for bearing with our tangents. This week's critique topic was mobile, obviously. So let's take a look. inside the TWiP Pro community. First up, looks like Jim Peters, last in, first up. He says, Sync Terra, Italy, Apple iPhone 6S using the built-in panorama feature. He shot this in March of 2016, edited in Lightroom Mobile on iPhone XR. See, we wanted people to shoot fresh stuff, didn't we? For this versus harvesting your library, Jim Peters.
No, we're kidding.
Yeah. All right.
We did. So, I don't know that we mentioned it.
Okay. All right. For the next one, next time we do mobile, fresh. In fact, for these critiques, we prefer fresh rather than prepackaged, right? So. All right. What do you think of this panorama?
I think it's great. No, I think it's a wonderful image, and I think that that's one of the nice things about the iPhone is that you can get out there and you can create, or a lot of phones I'm sure do it, but being able to create a panoramic on the spot, which is fantastic. To do that with a DSLR or a traditional camera is kind of a pain. So this is really super cool, and I love that scene. I do wish that the flagpole that's dead center at the bottom had been removed. And
yeah,
that's very, very possible now, with mobile software, with Snapseed and
that's a finger drag right there. That'd be gone, especially on a high frequency background like that water. It would do a great job on that.
Yep. But I love the framing. I like how we got that little island, that little wedge on the left, and we got that peninsula over on the right, kind of like framing the ocean. So for me, this is just really a wonderful, scenery. I do wish the horizon wasn't dead center though, which could be fixed with a little bit of cropping. But for the most part, I dig it. Good use of the panoramic feature.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that about the dead center. I don't know if it's an optical illusion or not, but it looks like the stitching may have warped the horizon line just a little bit. I can't be sure, and if it is very subtle. But like around here, it feels like it may have, kind of missed the stitch or warped it just a little bit.
And I know that the early phones had a harder time stitching, and that could just be because the water is moving and you got that high frequency, and that could just confuse the processing of stitching those together. But for the most part, I mean, considering it's an iPhone 6.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, and the panorama features of these phones is ridiculous. I haven't shot a panorama in a while, but when I was in, where was I? I was in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, and one of the people I was with was talking about vertical panoramas, and they were doing a bunch of vertical panoramas of skyscrapers and stuff, and it works great. I mean, it works, and this was with older iPhones, so maybe it's different now, but I remember if you do a vertical panorama, you would tend to get that distortion, right? The bowed buildings going up like that may be fixed. I don't know, but it was just really cool to be able to do that and just swipe it up, get the whole building in there, and go to town.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's a lot of cool features in our phones that photographically that we don't embrace as much as we probably should.
Yeah, we'll be talking about them more and more on this here show. All right, thank you, Jim Peters, for that shot. Appreciate it. All right, next up is you, Troy Miller, bragging with your iPhone 13 macro of ice because macro fire got a little hot. Look at that. So this is straight out of that iPhone 13. Look at that. It's crazy.
Yeah,
how close are you? You're like right on it, right?
Yeah, so this is actually in a glass of water, ice water. So that's the ice that's in the glass as we're sitting at BJ's having lunch. And this is actually only about 25% of the actual full frame. So I cropped in on this pattern. If I got too close, I blocked my own light. So I just couldn't get any closer. So it's the resolution is there. And as a full frame, it's actually really nice. I really like it. And I did some tweaking in Apple Photos on the phone to get the color that I wanted because I didn't have any gels or anything to play with lighting. Sure. So, and Margie is backlighting that with her iPhone 12 using her light to light down through the top.
Very cool. Were you shooting in RAW on this one, or did you need to?
I did shoot in RAW. Yeah.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. Because I knew that I would have highlight and shadow challenges if I shot just traditional JPEG. So, but yeah, that definitely made it gave me a lot of latitude, a whole lot of latitude.
How do those raw files hold up compared to raw files out of your Nikon Z7?
It's not really fair comparing. You know, it's a street Volkswagen compared to a Formula One race car. You know, they both have wheels and they drive, but full frame, high resolution, so much more dynamic range and color saturation than you get in, you know, a small chip. Small chips just have physical limitations.
Yeah, of course.
But if you shoot within the range of the smaller chip, and speaking to the phone specifically, you get a completely acceptable image. And I don't think that the Nikon would have done much better because the tonal range that I chose fit within the range of the phone. So,
and I'm going to guess, and maybe go out on a limb there, you having, you know, lunch or dinner with your beautiful wife at BJ's, you probably you're not gonna pull out your big old Nikon camera and slap on the lens and get everything set up in order to get the shot. Whereas with the iPhone, you can play around, get the shot, and it's pretty cool, right? And share it, and boom, here we are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. And it makes me photograph. I photograph a lot more stuff, especially since we announced this phone challenge. I probably took 20, 30 images over the last 2 weeks just to try to get something that I could submit, which was really fun because it forced me to play with the phone more. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to do this more. And I know better. I mean, I really do. It's just.
Yeah. Have you been playing? I sent you a link to that one app. It's called Even Longer. Have you seen that one?
I have not played with it.
You gotta play with it. It's a long exposure app that's gonna blow your mind. It's like impossible at what you can do with your phone, above and beyond what the native camera app in the phone can do, which we were talking about at Craig Colvin's, right? With the live photo mode, you can have it average those frames and give you a beautiful looking long exposure. With Even Longer, the Even Longer app, it lets you predictably do even longer and have more control over the exposures, and it blends them together, and it's butter. It's just butter. And I'd be interested to see what that looks like on your phone, right? On that 13 or a long exposure macro shot. Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. All right. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
You see my comment right here? Still waiting.
Yeah.
Still waiting. Chip shortage. Eric Pronsky's up next. He says, Pennybacker Bridge at dawn. Image taken this morning on my way home from work, captured with iPhone 12 using the Lightroom camera app, and then processed with the Lightroom mobile app, which is a surprisingly capable app, by the way. I like this. So this one, I'm going to guess you're cool with this horizon bisecting the image because it leads to the whole symmetry that Eric was going for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would probably do with this one, I would just probably crop off the left side, probably almost like 2/3 of the left side, and then that would really accentuate that circular visual pattern that we have with the bridge, and then the reflection, and you know, that little wedge of light on the right. So I would lean into that even more, that symmetry even more, by cropping off the left. But this is great. It's not as sharp, you know, for like big print kind of stuff. But you know, considering what it is, and maybe it was cropped, I'm guessing maybe that it was cropped from the general format.
Yeah. Looks like it's not quite 4:3.
Yeah, but I love it, and I'm so glad that, you know, he took the time to pull over and take the photo, and you don't have to break out a big piece of gear, and it's shareable, and it's in his library now, and it exists. And you know, if you really love it, then you plan to go back with your big kit, a tripod, you know, a big camera, and then you can reshoot it.
Yeah. Well, that begs a question, though, you know, and I was going to bring this up before we started recording, and I put a pin in it to record this so everyone could kind of hear this dialogue. But as we look through these photos, we're looking at them through the lens of, oh, that was shot with a phone. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's okay for a phone. You know, when are we going to move beyond that? When, you know, i.e., or are we beyond that? Like we were saying before, are we beyond that already? And is just us as people, as photographers, that put that category on the work? Like, when are we going to get to the point where we're just looking at this photo and it's, this is an amazing photo, or this is a crappy photo, and it has nothing to do with the fact that it was shot on a phone or not. It's just the merits of the photo you don't warrant, a positive critique. When do you think we're going to get there, or are we there already?
I think we're there already, but it's hard to get that type of image on a phone. And what I mean by that is that if an image comes up like this image, right? And Eric, I'm going to use your image as an example. I'm not picking on you for any reason, but this is a splendid image. However, there's a lack of shadow detail under the bridge. There's a lack of tonal quality that you would expect from a high-end pro level, mirrorless DSLR. It's not as sharp as it could be. Right, like there's conditions. So if I was looking at this and I was looking at this like in a national or state image competition, I'd be like, "Oh wow, this is beautiful, but it's soft, it's a little mushy," If you can get past those basic level critiques and it happens to be a phone image, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it's a phone.
Yeah. So that same argument could apply to, let's say, like what do they call it, like vegan meat, where it's you have Beyond Meat. so these photos are they're great photos, but they're not quite yet photos, but they're good facsimiles of a professional photo right now. They're just not quite there, much like this synthetic meat, the Impossible Meat or Beyond Meat. It's kind of like meat, but it's not quite meat yet. Right.
Right. And I think it's fair that we critique these from the perspective of a phone so that we can see where the limitations are, and then we can create images that fit within the limitations of the phone. Then nobody will know because we've tailored the image to fit the limitations of the phone. Yeah. And that's that. Then there's no more. This would telling people, this was shot on a phone or this was shot on whatever. It won't matter.
Yeah, because we're not putting the phone or forcing the phone to wear mirrorless or DSLR pants. Right. It's got its own wardrobe, and it's going to stand on its own merits for whatever reasons, and whatever art forms come from phone based. And the word phone is not even correct for these mobile device based workflows. Is going to be completely valid for that genre, right? Where if you say, "Hey, I'm going to shoot this feature film that normally would be shot in an area or a red or something, right? But I'm going to use a phone instead." Of course, you're going to see the rough edges because you're using the wrong tool for the job.
Do it. And then if somebody asks later what you shot that on, then impress them later and say, "Oh, we don't need to advertise what we shoot things on. It doesn't matter." But just remember, people are going to look at the image, and just like us in the critique scenario, we're gonna look at the image. It's whatever, it's this or that, and because it's on a phone, we know that, so we'll work through those.
Yeah. In other words, don't use the excuse of it being shot on a phone as an excuse for bad photography, right? Because the phones can do it. Don't say, "Well, I would have done better if I had a proper phone," right? No.
Never use equipment as an excuse or situation or anything else.
Yep.
No excuse.
No excuses. That's the theme of the rest of this year. No excuses. All right. Thank you, Eric Pronsky. Always good to see you in here and see you in our mixers. Right. Up next is Karen Sweeney. Karen, we haven't seen you in our mixers much, but I understand. I know what's going on over there. Karen says, "Hot stuff. Didn't touch a computer or camera. Shot on a Qubit." Never heard of that. That must be, I don't know. I have no idea what that brand name is. On a Qbot Android 9 phone, edited with Snapseed. I love Snapseed.
Nice.
All right. Look at this. I feel like it's rezzed up and maybe soft, or is that the phone, do you think? Because I don't know what that Android phone is.
I don't know, and this is one of those scenarios where you're gonna look at the image and you're gonna be like, this is really cool. It's really abstract. I love the border, the colors and the shapes. I get it, but it's not sharp. I don't know why. I don't know if that's intentional. Were we going for softy abstract? But I wish the peppers were sharp.
Yeah.
Or I wish something was in focus. Yeah, I wish something was sharp. So I don't know if it's a focus issue or it's a resolution issue.
It feels resolution. I mean, I don't know, maybe a little of both, but it feels more resolution because this makes me feel like the files that came out of that. You remember back in the day, the Sony Mavica? Remember those cameras that had the floppy disks in them?
Yeah.
I had two of those. I love those cameras to death. But I remember the files that came out of them were, they looked okay in the best of situations, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. The resolution of this kind of reminds me of that. It may not be. She may have just punched in on this. Who knows?
Yeah, and you know what? I love the color harmony that's going on in here. I love the story. These roasting peppers over a fire. Like, I get it. Like, this might be a great background for something or some illustration. But as we talked, photographically, it's not sharp, and I wish it was sharp. That's.
Yeah, I mean, that's we as humans. We want stuff to be sharp, right?
Yeah, our eyes try to do that for us all day long, make things sharp.
Cool.
I'm noticing a lot of borders in these images. A lot of sloppy borders. I'm really digging it.
Oh my God. It's a virus. The border virus.
The border virus.
We need the vaccine. The border vaccine.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you, Karen. This is awesome. Thank you for submitting this.
Thank you.
All right. Up next is James Glennie. James says the best camera is the one you forgot at home because that one is fully charged and has an empty card. Happily, you've always got your phone. Shot on the OnePlus 8T, edited with the Snappy Seeds. Let's take a look.
The Snapseed's getting some play.
That's right. That app is not a joke.
Yep. No, and this is great. I love the color harmony in here. I would not know this was shot on a phone if you didn't tell me. This has nice tonality, nice color saturation, even the edge resolution of the leaf and the highlight detail and stuff on the water, the dew that's on the water that's on that leaf. I wouldn't know this was shot with a phone. Not in our viewing circumstance. So.
Yeah, and that's what you're going for, right? It should be matter of fact. It shouldn't matter.
Right. So this is great. I wish it was maybe that top left corner was darkened down a little bit.
Over here,
to bring in a little more.
Push these guys back further.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
And there's another sloppy border.
Yes. Nicely done. Nicely done.
At least this one mocks film a little bit. Kind of feel filmy.
Yeah, it's got the notches, the two notches.
Transparency. Well, speaking of that, see this border he has on this, kind of like a white edge vignette on there.
Yep.
What do you think of that? Is that helping or hurting or are you benign? What do you think?
I don't either way. It's it's a kind of like a fogged film look, so it's fine. I don't. I prefer it to go darker than lighter if I'm gonna do that. Yeah.
I agree. Cool.
And technically, the notches are backwards.
Oh, these notches should be on this side, you mean, or upper right?
No, the notches should go into the image.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Not the other way. Yeah, so it's kind of, I don't know how that was applied, but it's technically backwards. Those notches were there so that you could figure out what side the emulsion was on the film when you put it in the back of like a 4x5.
Yeah, in the dark. Yeah.
In the dark.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Next shot up is from Mark Charette. The legacy of photography depends on us. Isaac seeing his first sunrise from a photographer's perspective. Shot on his iPhone 12 Pro Max. That's my phone.
Yay.
Let's see.
That's super cool.
See, this is becoming a game for me because I'm like, okay, I think I know what Troy's going to say about this shot. Let's see if he said it. All right.
Do it. Go. Do it.
You want me to do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see if I'm right. I think you would say the horizon isn't quite bisecting it in the middle, so you're probably okay with that, but you probably like it not to be as close to the middle as this is. The grass in the foreground is a little undersaturated So with the sky being as vivid as it is, you might want the grass to pop a little more. This little landmass on the right here, you might take that out. I think you might get rid of that completely. And I'm up in the air on if you'd get rid of these branches kind of coming in from the upper right, because it does kind of frame the shot. But at the same time, do you really need those up there? Because there's nothing connecting them to the world. They're just kind of floating up there. I don't know. How close did I get?
That was really close. Yeah. I wish that I could take this frame and shift the perspective to the left, cropping out the island on the right, or whatever that is, right? The landmass, and adding some more space to the left of Isaac. Even so much so as if there's a tree there, include the body of the tree a little bit to kind of give him some more form. But I feel like he's pressed a little too far to the left.
Yeah.
So I do wish that we had some of that additional space there. And the way it sits right now, if I was to leave the composition, with Isaac in the frame where he's at, I would crop off probably a third of the right half of the frame, because I don't think it adds any balance. And I like the idea that the horizon and that wedge of light leads you out of the frame to the right. I like that because that's him looking that way, and I kind of feel like that takes him into the sunset.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
But I dig it. I think it's great. I think it's a little heavier process like HDR than what I would probably do. But it's
works. A little crunchy, right? Just a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't see fringing or anything, but there's just a little bit of crunchiness in there.
Right.
But remember, phone, right? So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So crazy. I was going to ask you as a pro photographer, i.e. somebody who claims photographer on your tax returns pro, right? We know there are people that shoot pro level work that aren't pro. But as a pro photographer, where do you fall on just the idea of color correction when it comes to using these mobile devices for, quote, professional level work? Because you can't do any calibration or anything on these phones. And the question is that I was struggling with this the other day, because I'm like, does it even matter? Because the majority, there's billions of these phones out there, right? So chances are somebody's going to look at it on a phone that's similar to yours anyway. So is calibration for mobile devices completely moot now? How do you approach that?
The newer phones, like the 12 and especially the 13, the color calibration and the color balance within the phone and the images are so good. They are really, really good. And I'm impressed at how good they are. For my level of work, there's really no true colors in anything, because I always tweak it for my vision, right? A little better skin tone, a little bluer sky, like whatever. I'm always doing that. So professionally, it doesn't really matter. I can make it do whatever I want. If you're a commercial shooter, though, and you're going to go photograph a BMW and it's a blue BMW, that's a very specific blue, and they want to make sure. So if you're going to have deliverables, that's maybe something you can fix in post. I don't know how accurate the phone itself is going to be. Visually, to me, it's very close.
Yeah, especially if you're like, to your point, if you're shooting something commercial, like you're Tim Engel or somebody, and you're doing a fashion shoot, and the red that the model is wearing is a very specific red, or you're doing a shot for Tiffany's, and that Tiffany's blue has to be the Tiffany's blue, and you're doing it with a phone or something. Yep. Yeah, yeah, of course you could match it in Capture One or Lightroom or whatever you're using, but I wonder, that's a good test. I wonder how close out of the box, under controlled lighting conditions, would the raw files be with no adjustments out of a camera or out of a phone versus you shooting with your Nikon or something. That'd be an interesting test. Interesting. Yep. All right, Mark Charette, thank you. Up next is Nora Zanatna. She says, the rain fell and he waited. BlackBerry Passport with primitive editing tools. Oh, she's being stealthy with her tools.
Yeah, nice. Now, this is one of those images that there's just no way for us to know, whether it was a camera and it was processed down, or if it was a phone, because there's just not enough data resolution, everything else in there, right? Like there's just not enough. So that's great. That's great. Like, you don't have to say it works, right? Great street shot, very commercial. I mean, not very commercial, but very abstract. I love it. I mean, I would crop the top and the bottom a little bit if you have the tools to do that. But other than that, I love how abstract it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I same thing, and it draws you in. It's when I looked at the shot, I had to look at it and kind of think about it. What was going on? My brain, I don't know where my brain went when I first saw this thing, but you know what I saw initially? I saw, what do you call it? You fish, right? Do you fish?
I don't. No, not for a long time.
Well, the whatever the reel is, not the rod, the reel, right? So my dad had a reel that looked like this. And I saw that. And I just glanced at it. I was like, is that a fishing reel? Because I saw like the circular in it, and then I had to look at it closer and like, oh, it's a reflection. But yeah, it's interesting where our mind goes initially.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's, with an image like this, it's so abstract. And I gotta say, Nora, I love your images. You always have this amazing abstract perspective, and now even using your phone, right, you still pull out your style, which I think is really important for us to all realize, that your phone is an extension of your style. It's just another camera.
Yeah.
You don't have to have fancy lenses to maintain your style, and style matters as much as quality, I think.
Yeah. Style, storytelling, whole 9 yards.
Yeah. This is great. Yeah. Very film noir. Very nice.
Yep. Yeah, that's the word. Thank you. That's the phrase I was looking for. Film noir. Yep. Thank you, Nora. Very good. All right. And up next, Craig Stampfli, iPhone 11 Pro Max, Apple Camera app, and editing tools. Snapseed border.
Yes.
Asterisk for Troy Miller.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And Bushmills, I love Bushmills, especially like the 16. I think there's like a Bushmill 16 that I love. Very good, very good scotch. So what I love about this image is that, as we talked earlier, I have no idea if you shot this with a phone. It's, from what I can see from the display that I have here and over the web, right? It's sharp. The glass is sharp. The edge of the rim is sharp. The highlight details are there. Maybe a little heavy-handed in the burning in the bottom quadrant, but I can pass that. The crackers and everything look appetizing, and they're sharp. I can see them. It's solid.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it might be a little bit tight on the border here, because you got the top of the Bushmills close to the edge here. So I'd love to see a little bit more headroom in there, maybe a little bit more room from this guy at the bottom, from the glass at the bottom. Well. Other than that, I mean, everything else is subjective, right? I agree with you. You wouldn't know that this was shot on a phone had it not be a submission into a phone or a mobile photography critique. When I look at this on the merits of the photography itself, I obviously know that the Bushmills is the hero of this frame, and these guys are supporting characters around it. But I'd want to feel that more. And I think that's a composition thing, right? I want this maybe bigger in the frame or positioned differently so that the Bushmills is more imposing, because I'm assuming that's an expensive whiskey, right? So let's show it and make it feel expensive. That's what I'd want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I would have shifted the glass slightly left. I would have brought the bottle more forward, and then slide it in the sort of the plate back there in the back so that it wasn't clipped off on the edge. You're right about the framing and a little bit more headroom on the bottle and stuff. So I think that's composition. But in reality, if you notice, we're talking about all the things that, regardless if it's on a phone or a regular camera, right? Yeah. It's all about now it's composition. And it's sharp enough that I can zoom in and I can read the distilled date. And
good, nice.
Yeah, so that's impressive, right? Like, I can read almost everything on that label, and I called it a Scotch, but I know it's a whiskey. So I just want to make sure that everybody gets the fact that it's a single malt Irish whiskey. I want to make sure that we're right about that. For those aficionados.
You lose your whiskey card, you know.
I know. Gosh, I get beat up for that. Great shot.
Yeah. And, you know, because he was shooting on a relatively wide lens, right, I'm sure part of his compositional decisions were, I want to get that wood background. It needs to fill the space behind my subjects.
Right.
So going down, who knows how far that goes back. So you might have lost that.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but cool shot. Really cool. I like it.
Yep.
Makes me
well
thirsty.
Done, Craig.
All right. Next shot up is from Dwayne Murphy. Dwayne says, "Love isn't perfect. It just is." Yes. Felt like adding something heartwarming to the world this week. Used a little sugar and a pinch of spice and some "let's see what this does." Cool. Comments welcome. I love that. What a great caption.
Yeah. I know that Dwayne is playing with a macro lighting tool that he got that has like these 4 little light arms that come out of it that have LEDs that you can change the color and the brightness and everything. And
yeah.
Well, I don't know what it's called, but we'll have to ask him at the next member mixer to talk about it. But it's really neat. So I'm pretty sure that's what he's using here.
Very cool. Yeah, I like it. No notes other than just a comment that this also has a sloppy border. Just
yeah, and Dwayne doesn't know. He hasn't been part of the community long enough to know that this could be considered pandering to Troy's sloppy border fetish.
No, but you guys are friends. You guys are friends, so you've already contaminated that water. So.
No, which means that on purpose, Dwayne would have not put a sloppy border on it. So I think he did this because he liked it, not because of me. So.
Maybe, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with sloppy borders. I'm just saying, you know, it's like salt. Yeah. A little pinch will do it right there. Too much will ruin the meal.
The only thing that I would say to this image, Dwayne, is I wish that the more of the foreground was in focus as opposed to the not foreground, the background of the image, right? Like the far top loop seems to be what's in focus, and I wish that it was the other way around. Just personal preference. I think that it would look better if the front was in focus and then it fell out of focus to the back.
Yeah,
but that's personal preference, really.
This is one of those shots that I wonder what it would look like gigantic, like huge.
Oh yeah,
in frame,
and you might see
wall.
That.
Yeah. In fact, have you seen any like big prints from mobile phones yet? You have like wall size prints. Nice.
Yeah.
In pack?
I printed some of my stuff. Yeah. Do we have any at pack? I don't think so. I don't think we do.
Not yet.
But I've printed some. I know Peter's printed some.
Yeah. And they hold up?
Oh yeah. I mean, look, it's like any image. You know, you edit it and you get it tuned to best fit the medium you're going to put it on. And at that point, it does its job and it looks amazing.
Yeah. I wonder what the like workflow wise, you know, we talked about the color correction and all that stuff, but also just being able to do detailed work on a phone. Not that you'd want to do that, but like if you're in a pinch and you want to, you know, you just want to get this thing edited and posted or shared with someone, that workflow can be constrictive. I found I have a tablet, the iPad 12 9-inch, the big one with the pen, and I found, I think based on advice from you, I've been using Apple Photos more. So I'm out shooting, like even with this gymnastic stuff. So I'm out shooting gymnastics or whatever with the phone. And then I come back and plop down on the couch when we get home and I just grab the iPad and there all my images are right there. Yep. And now I see them big and I can zoom in and retouch, you know, and get in really detailed and all that. It's just it's such a refreshing workflow. You know, it's a different workflow, but it's refreshing to be able to just go out there with next to nothing, a phone, capture these great raw files of something, then come back and chill watching a comedy special on Netflix and retouch with a pencil, you know, and just got your drink there. It's different than the modality of sitting here at my quote workstation, right?
Right. Oh different. My big matrix filled multi-monitor lit over
right
tech. Yeah, I'm surrounded by tech.
Your gilded cage. You're in your gilded cage, right? And it just feels it almost feels like cheating when you're like, okay, I got all these images. I'm gonna go run and hang out at In-N-Out and have some lunch and work on this picture for a little bit and see what I can pull out, and then get finished with it and come back and sit at your computer if you want to, and there it is in Apple Photos. Let me do a little something else. Yeah. Crazy, I tell you.
Agreed. Absolutely agree. Yep.
All right, Dwayne, great shot, man. Thank you for sharing this.
Yes.
And good to have you in the community too.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, next shot up is Mike Doran. Mike says, Wednesday sunset from the backside of Ray Sonoma. I use my Olympus. Use the Olympus. This is a mobile critique. Should we critique this one anyway, or should we not critique it?
How many more do we have? I think we got 2 left. Yeah, let's jump into the...
You want to do the other ones?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Mike, this one was mobile. The critique topic was mobile. So it wouldn't be fair if we critiqued this when everyone else did the mobile thing. But next week, there's always next week. Tom Buckhout says, Sunset White Sand National Park, Pixel 2 XL, f1.8 at one, this is very specific, 1/1560th of a second at a 4.48 millimeter ISO. I'm sorry. ISO 051. Okay. In Snapseed. This is all very specific. Let's take a look.
Yeah, it's a really fun composition. It's really interesting. I love the white sands. I mean, that's a great place to photograph, and it's super interesting there. I love the horizon is really close to dead center. I'm never a big fan of that. But right away, the sky feels very overprocessed. And the burning of the white sands in the distance feels very unnatural. It feels too dark. I don't know. What do you think? It just feels like an unnatural combination to me.
Yeah, it feels very. It feels very. What's that? Teal and orange. The whole teal and orange feel. That's pervasive on YouTube these days. That Stephen Scharf is not that much of a fan of and has professed that. But it has that to it. I agree with the crunchy side of it. There's something uneasy about that. I think maybe with a different crop, we would have had different effect on this. Like this bottom area down here is kind of a chin to the image when all the action is happening up here. I mean, if we had cropped some of this off down here, it would guide us up into the image a little more, maybe. Also, when I first looked at this, being from Illinois, I saw snow. I saw freshly fallen snow. That's what I saw. Ready for a snow angel. That's what I saw.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't see snow, but you're right. Yeah, that little blue color. And something else that I'm not quite sure about is that sky is so intensely orange, right? But there's no warm tone really coming into the foreground. So what it makes me feel is that sky was pushed really far. Yeah. Way oversaturated. Yeah.
And if he's playing by the rules of this being only shot and edited on mobile, this could very well have been a Luminar sky swap, right? And that would make sense.
Yeah.
But even with Luminar has that feature where it would pull in some of the warm tones from the sky and introduce them into the ground below just to make it work together. We're not seeing that here, so I don't think so.
And it's very conceivable. I mean, like I believe that it's all in frame, because I think that it was just pushed. Snapseed will do that, oversaturate, over contrast. So what I would say is less heavy-handed on the edit. Let the sky be the sky with a little bit of accentuation. Think about where you want the viewer's eye to go. Careful on over processing. I mean, this applies to whether it's a phone or a traditional, camera photo. It doesn't matter. Like heavy-handed editing comes across as heavy-handed editing, and I love the scene, and I would love to see it,
Just dial
edited
back a little.
differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, Troy, speaking of just editing on the phone, and we use our phones for a ton of stuff, right? Not just this photography stuff, but we use our phones for everything. And camera specifically is my second memory, like where my parking space is, especially if I'm traveling and I need to come back to my car after a couple of days.
Right.
But one of the things that I put on my phone specifically for traveling is a privacy screen on there, so that people can't view my screen from, I guess, oblique angles or whatever. And it drops the luminance of the screen down, I would say a good half a stop, maybe a little bit less.
You'll love the new phone then.
Because it's brighter?
Way brighter.
Well, what I did was I pulled it off, especially now that I'm shooting more. I'm thinking, well, what's more important? Being able to, we already can't color. This is my logic. We already can't color balance, right, or do anything like that. And I'm putting handicap on myself by limiting, by giving my eyes a false sense of what I'm actually editing by going through this privacy screen. Like with this image, right? I could see it happening with an image like this, where on my phone, it looked great, right? And now I shared this with the world, and now it's, the sky is a little bit oversaturated. So would you, through that quote lens, would you suggest people that are getting serious about photography, should they care about the privacy protector? I put mine on there because I had people looking at my phones while I'm sitting in the seat on the plane, and I don't like people looking over my shoulder. But I don't fly that much. So it was like, do I really need it on there all the time? What would you suggest for people? Should they keep it or should they?
No, that's a really good question. I mean, it lends us to the equipment and how we're going to use that equipment best. I mean, I guess if you're flying a lot and you don't want people looking at your phone, that's the best way to resolve it. And then you just have to compensate for that, which means then you bring out your iPad or you do your editing on, like Apple Photos or do something later. And my video just went to garbage, but...
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. I don't know. Something's going on with all this stuff today.
Switch to an image, quick!
Yeah, no, switch. Get out of here. Get out of here. All right. So we'll switch to an image while Troy's bandwidth sorts itself out over there.
I have no idea.
All right. So, cool. That was Tom Buckhout. Thank you for that shot, man.
Thanks,
Hopefully
Thomas.
our comments were helpful and constructive. All right. Next up is Michael DeRay. He says, I was out wandering yesterday and decided to get my critique phone photo so that I wouldn't forget this time. Thank you. Samsung A7 I shot in pro mode, 5.23 millimeter. We're going to start seeing that with these phones, right? These weird focal lengths. 5.23 millimeter f1.8 ISO 50 500th of a second. No edits. So this is mobile and straight out of camera. All right. He's throwing the gauntlet down. Let's take a look.
So I have a question for you and for everybody to kind of weigh in on. Do you need the specs? Like, it doesn't matter to you what a lens and a shutter speed is ever? Like, does that really matter on an image?
That's a really good question. I don't think it matters. Personally, I don't think it matters what you shot it with, but I think it matters in the context of a photography community that, because people want to know how the sausage is made and how you made that particular photo. So yeah, I think it's pertinent here to post that stuff so people can kind of go behind the scenes in case they want to try something like that. It's good to know. I know I want to know if I see a shot, and I'm in photographer mode. I want to know how they did it because I want to try it. I want to know what camera, what lens, strobes, everything. I want to know how you did it so I can just understand what it takes to make a shot like that. Not so much to copy it, but just to understand it.
Oh, got it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I normally look at things like, oh, that's a really cool location. I want to go there. And I'm
that too. Yeah, that too.
Do my thing. Yeah. Interesting.
Yep.
So to this image,
straight out of camera, mobile. What do you think?
I love this church. This is amazing. This is something I would stop and photograph as often as I possibly could. For this image, we're tilted counterclockwise. So if you're going to do as much in camera as possible and not do a lot of editing, you really got to be aware of that. It looks to me like you're standing in the proper location, but maybe the phone was tilted slightly to the left, so we just got to really watch that in screen. If you can see it, right? If you don't have a screen protector on or a privacy thing, or you can actually see the screen to do that detailed work, or just rotate it later. But I dig it. And I think it would look great in black and white.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I was just looking in Snapseed. I was trying to see if I think it does have perspective correction tools in there too. So I know he didn't do any post on this, obviously, but he could have gone in and fleshed up those buildings a little bit, right?
But I think it would have cropped the image a lot, for one, and I think it would have changed the essence or the feeling that this building is very tall, right? It's really tall.
Yep.
And so I like the converging lines. I think that's great. I think it works perfect. I just think that for an image, let's get verticals vertical and get it nice and balanced so the horizontals are horizontal, and then begin your tweaking and your tuning,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Crop wise, I think my only comments compositionally on this image would be, if there's more building on this side, on the base, I want to see the base. I want to see it actually.
Right.
I want to see where the building ends on both sides. I want this flush, all this. I want perpendicular, horizontal, because we're looking at architecture here. So my brain goes to, are the lines straight? Instantly it goes to that. So extra care in post. Again, this is straight out of the camera, right? So extra care in post on making sure that if you are going to do what Troy was saying about, leaning into the perspective or the converging lines, this stuff at the top, that down here at the bottom you need to have your grid turned on when you're cropping to make sure that everything is flushed up, or else with something like this, we're going to see every tilt and every angle.
Right. And I was just doing a little measuring on the image itself to see how close it was, because actually what it looks like is it may be tilted a little bit, but it looks like the ground in front of the church is sloped. I just noticed.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you can kind of see on the stairs, it looks like, I don't know.
It's tough. It might be the light playing around. Who knows?
It's definitely tilted a little bit.
If it is though, if that ground and if the foreground is a slope in reality, what's the play as the photographer? You'd have to crop it out, because you can't say, well, no, it's not. I didn't make a mistake. The ground was actually sloped, right? You can't. Yep. No one's going to care. It's just they're just going to see what looks like
crop
an error.
Crop it out or fix it. Yeah, you can fix it, in post in like Photoshop. I don't know if you can do like selective areas like in Snapseed, but I mean, look, the resolution is there, the color is there, the detail is there. A little highlight loss in the main window, but for the most part, it's a really, really solid image, and I dig it. So, go back and photograph this thing a lot. This would be amazing.
Yeah, this reminds me of a church that's up in Sacramento. I know Tim will know what I'm talking about. There's a church that looks maybe not quite this grandiose. It looks like this, similar to this church, but scaled down, maybe a third. So
nice,
really cool. All right, so I think is this the end of the road?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the end of the road. All right. So I think we both have a favorite that we discussed. Is that still your favorite after all this dialogue?
Yeah.
All right.
Still my favorite.
We both think this guy is the winner.
Yay.
Or our favorite for the mobile photo critique. Congratulations, Craig Stampfli. Good shot, man. I wonder if any of this whiskey's left. Or chocolate, or nuts, or crackers. All that's gone.
Right.
Reward. I mean, you pour it, right? I'm sure he didn't pour this back into the bottle. I'm sure that is now in the Australian sewage system, I think. So,
nice.
No, that's cool.
Great image.
Cool shot. Very nice. Very nice. Hey, one interesting thing on, we were talking about long exposures with mobile, like using the what's it called, the even longer app and whatever. There's some tutorials online that show, the traditional long exposure stuff where you're doing waterfalls or, the sky blurring or star trails, those kind of things. But there's some up there that show light painting with the phone and building composite images where you lock your camera down on a tripod, like in this shot that Craig Stampfli submitted. You take a shot like this, lock your camera down on a tripod, run that app, and then paint in your exposures for these individual areas, either to create one image at once or to create a series of images that you're going to then load into an app or Photoshop or whatever, and then basically stack together and paint in highlights where you want them. Stuff that's been done forever in traditional photography. It was just really interesting that it's feasible on mobile now, that you could totally do that, and no one would know the difference. No one would know that, oh, you shot that on a mobile. It would just look like a fantastically lit shot,
right?
Whether it's a car or drinks or whatever.
And light painting is a very underappreciated and underutilized technique for creating images. Because it's amazing. You can make a scene look like there was like sophisticated light systems everywhere, and just you did it all with one flashlight.
Didn't you give me a flashlight at some point? I thought you did.
Probably did.
I was there.
It's probably like one of these.
Oh, you mean like this? Wait, like this?
Yes. That bad boy.
The light painting tool right here. This thing could light a building, right? Just this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, that and this, you need a tripod, but you could. These two things could light almost anything, as long as it's not moving. As long as it's not moving. You're good to go.
All you need.
Cool. Well, let's wrap this one up. We need to pick the topic. Do you have a topic for 172 next week?
We do. We talked about it, and please forgive my crappy video. I have no idea what's happening. But what we talked about was, for us in the States, it's Halloween. Halloween's coming up, and so we thought, well, what about spooky? Right, Halloween, spooky, something like that to get us through October. So that's our theme. I don't care how you shoot it, what it is. Spooky, Halloween,
spooky. Yeah. So I just Googled spooky. Hopefully, nothing questionable will come up that I have to edit.
You're taking your chances, man.
I totally am, but here's some ideas for spooky stuff. Ooh,
none of that stuff is spooky.
Yeah, this is all kitschy stuff. But like stuff like this one, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Or this one, kind of Sleepy Hollow-ish, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. So that's a wide range of concepts. So no matter where you are, you can do spooky.
You can do spooky. All right. Let's see what you guys got. And we'll be recording that on November 11th around this here time. That'll be critique number 172, Spooky.
Wow. Yes.
172. Man,
yes.
Where does the time go? It's crazy. All right. Cool. Anything else you want to share before we end this one, my friend?
Just... like always, we tend to say is, just be a good human. Like, just go out and be a good human. That's all we need. We need a lot of good human stuff.
Yes, please inject more good humanity into the world. And as a prophet / sage human being once said, walk slow and read.
Yes.
That's a Millerism, by the way, in case you didn't know. Walk slow and read. Yes. Now, Troy, when you read, when you're doing your walk slow and read, are you reading physical books? Are you reading, does that include audiobooks? Like what?
No. Very quick descriptor of what this was. I was in the backcountry in Yosemite, Tuolumne Meadows. I was hiking, and I came around the corner, and I'm just making time, And there was this older gentleman with his dog sitting and just kind of chilling. And we talked a little bit. And when he left, he told me, he goes, "Hey, walk slow and read." And it took me years before that made any sense. I figured it's just crazy colleger. But really the way that I interpret it is that we need to be patient with our day, patient with our movement through time, right? And read is just pay attention to things. Look up from your phone, enjoy the shapes of the clouds or the colors of the trees, or if the wind is blowing, just enjoy it, right?
That's right.
That's just just absorb it. Walk slow and read. So
yes, I love it. I love it. We'll leave it right there, Troy Miller. I want to do one jealousy thing on you since I have to order one of these. I just noticed on the side of this MacBook Pro, do you see those ports right there?
I do. I noticed that. I noticed
SD
that right
slots. That kills a dongle right there. HDMI and SD on the side of this thing. Finally, it's back. Thank goodness. Ugh.
Oh yeah. They made mention of that in the announcement that they added additional ports and all the good stuff. Which
yes,
that's a great move.
I'm liquidating a Mac Mini and a 15-inch MacBook Pro, and it's going to be converted into a 16-inch, and that's it.
Nice.
That will rule the world. Yeah, that'll rule the world for the next 3 or 4 years or so. All right. Cool, my friend. We'll leave it right there. Thank you, everybody who submitted your images, for participating in this critique. It's always a pleasure and an honor to look at your images and that you would take our feedback. Hopefully, we said some hopeful things, or some helpful things, rather. And yeah, get your spooky on for November 1st. Get that spooky on. Let's see what you got. You know who has a leg up on this? Karen Sweeney. Karen Sweeney is in Scotland, the land of castles. So she can go out there and get one of them castles, put some ghosts in there or something. We didn't say anything about compositing, right? You could composite, put a ghost in there.
We said no limits. Just
make something cool. But let's put it down right now. Make something cool, but please shoot something original. Right? Don't go looking through your Lightroom catalog for everything shot around October of 2012 or something. Let's see some fresh stuff. So it's not.
Yeah.
And feel free to shoot it with your phone too. I'd be Troy is to sloppy borders as Frederick is to phone. There you go. So.
That's a stretch.
Because you love your sloppy borders more than I love iPhone mobile photography, or
well, I haven't seen much of your mobile photography.
You haven't seen any of my mobile photography yet. None. But you will.
But yes. I love the advocating for more mobile photography. That's going to be a current theme and a big push because I think look for some tutorials in Snapseed and Even Longer and Lightroom Mobile and on and on and on. There's all kinds of fun stuff that we can do with this. Yeah.
So and if you guys have any feedback or comments, throw them in the comments for this here post on TWiP PRO and let me know what your ideas are for different mobile type content that you might care about
apps
seeing.
Too.
Not that we're not going all mobile all the time, but we need to pay a little more attention to it. That's what we're saying. All right, man. Troy Miller, thank you. And you and I are talking in a couple days, so I will talk to you when we talk.
Yes, you got it, buddy. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
See you later. Bye, everybody. This is TWiP.